Hey Mommy Brainers, welcome to my third episode of Remembering Pregnancy. I'm going to be talking about my third trimester of my pregnancy with Titus here. This portion of my story runs from March to June when I have him. So at the beginning of this trimester, I was still living with Ben, and I was living in his house rent-free, which is very kind and generous of him. But I was starting to feel like I was taking up a lot of his space and a lot of his freedom, and I felt bad because I wasn't planning on staying there as long as I did. But I was anticipating on moving to a homeless shelter in the next week or two. But unfortunately, that didn't happen until the end of April. So it wasn't until near the end of April, I was 32 weeks pregnant, when I got the call from my caseworker, and she said, "A room opened up in our shelter, can you come down, like, right now?" And I was like, I was so nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect. I had no idea what the environment was going to be. Who was I going to be living with? Was it going to be, like, dirty? Was it going to feel safe? I didn't know what to expect. My only experience with homeless people were people at the end of the street panhandling and, at the end of roads. So, before I became homeless, my worldview was pretty narrow. So I packed everything up and nervously drove the hour to the shelter. And when I got there, I was really pleasantly surprised. It was an apartment. They rent apartments, and then each apartment has 2 bedrooms, and the whole apartment is to be shared by 2 mothers plus their children. And I was the only one there the first night, but I found out my roommate was also pregnant and that she was due just a couple weeks before I was. So I was pretty excited about that. I thought, we'll have something to talk about, something maybe to bond over. We're both kind of in a similar situation. Maybe we'll get along. Unfortunately, this person, she maybe wasn't fit to be a mother. She had some substance abuse issues. She broke a lot of the rules in the shelter. She had had children taken away from her in the past. So it was hard for me to see that type of mother, especially not having been exposed to that type of mother and also being pregnant and kind of wondering how you could treat your child that way before they're even born. It was definitely an experience and a learning curve. She did end up getting kicked out towards the end of my pregnancy, and I would actually go on to have 4 more roommates besides her, which is crazy. My roommates were constantly, it was like revolving doors there. On May 1st, I had my baby shower. My mom threw it. It was simple. It was all, it was cute. It was simple. It was small. I felt really blessed, and I got to see my brothers, my mom, a lot of my good friends, and it was a really nice thing to be there and just so excited for meeting my son, yet so anxious not to be in the situation I was in. Now, at this time, I really did think I was going to be out of the shelter before I had Titus. I was told this. But unfortunately, the day after I was told that I was going to be able to leave the shelter before I even had Titus, the person who kind of coordinated that and could make that happen quit. So that put a huge damper in my plans to get out quickly, and I ended up staying straight through the rest of my pregnancy and into my postpartum period, which I will talk about in my next part. While I was there, I spent, a lot of the time, they had a TV, which was nice. I spent a lot of time watching Ellen, a lot of time reading and walking. I ended up quitting my job at Walmart shortly after I moved there so that I could focus on the housing portion of, why I was actually homeless, was so that I wouldn't have to be homeless forever. So I went through kind of that process, kind of avoided my roommate, stuff like that. It wasn't the worst time, but it dragged on, and I was like, at this point, I know I'm going to be here when I have him. I might as well have him, right? So, in the last days of my pregnancy, it was weird. I have it written down here that some days I felt like I would have him any day, like right now. And then other days I felt like it was going to be years and that I would be pregnant for the rest of my life, which of course is silly. But that's what every woman pretty much feels like at the end of her pregnancy. So, I wasn't necessarily in a rush, but I was definitely feeling like, okay, well, he might as well come. If I can't be housed by the time he comes. He might as well just come anytime. Although, on June 6th, The Fault in Our Stars is coming out, and I really wanted him to wait until after that because I wanted to see it so bad, which that happened. So I'm glad he waited until after that. I'm a huge John Green fan. I did get an ultrasound at the end of my pregnancy. I went to see a doctor once. I was seeing a midwife the whole time. There's one time I go see a doctor, and he's like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, in like 2 seconds. And then he's like, oh, and by the way, you're going to go have an ultrasound now because you're measuring big. And I was like, okay, measuring big, I gotcha. But, you know, I want to see my baby, so I'll play along. And this is the picture that they gave me. It's Titus's nose. I'm sure you can see that. It's ridiculous. And everyone was like, he's going to have the hugest nose ever. And while my baby does have a big nose, look at that. It's hilarious. So that was, yeah. Oh, look at that was June 6th. That was the same day as The Fault in Our Stars. It was the best day ever. What happened on June 4th, though, was Sierra had her baby, and that was such a weird week because we had gone through pregnancy together. Just, you know, the whole thing we had gone through together, and it was so weird for her to be on the new stage of her parenting, you know, journey, where I was still stuck like a beached whale, you know, hugely pregnant and just really wanting to meet my son. It was especially weird because I know, Sierra, you were due, like, after me. So, like, almost, you know, like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after me, you were due, and you ended up having Brooke right before me. So, my predictions were right, though. I did have my son within a week of Sierra having Brooke. I had him on June 11th, and I have told that birth story. I've actually told it in 2 different formats, so I think I can link these right here. So I will link both birth stories here. You can watch them if you're interested in that. But next time I will talk about my 4th trimester, which tends to be the first 12 weeks of motherhood on the outside. And I was actually homeless for longer than that period. If you guys do want me to talk about my entire homelessness experience, you know, after that 4th trimester phase, I can. Just let me know. It's kind of one of those things where it's, you know, remembering is, it makes me feel a little guilty and sad that that's the situation that I was in. And I'm so glad Ty will never remember. And I just have to remind myself, he's not going to remember that that's how things ever were. He won't have any clue, and his life has been nothing but pure joy as far as he's concerned. So, yeah, that was my experience. It was, you know, it was a rough one. My pregnancy, you know, I was sick through all this time, you know, this whole 3rd trimester. I was still throwing up, not as frequently as in my 1st and 2nd, but I was still puking and food aversions galore and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I was glad not to be pregnant anymore. So we will talk about that 4th trimester coming up really soon. If you want to hear the rest of my homelessness story, let me know. And I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.